So what I want to do this morning is share with you a number of tools that have been really helpful to me and to organisations that I've worked with across the UK in starting this journey of looking at what is a business model, how does our model work at the moment, how might we develop that into the future. And the tools are there to help spark your thinking. I hope that during the course of the day you will take away some ideas and some things that you might put into place back in your organisation immediately. But really it's about giving you a process, a new way of thinking, some practical tools that you can try out and discuss back in your organisation with your colleagues.
Yeah, about 10 years ago I worked in an innovation park. And at that time I got familiar with some of the tools and the processes in the innovation process. And from that moment I also read this book that Alexander Osterwalder wrote, which defines this business model canvas that Julie has been talking about. So that totally blew my mind, and I wanted to continue working on that. I didn't do it all the time, but on a side. So at some point I wrote this small guide or introduction to business model innovation for cultural organizations.
At the heart of my work, it's looking at how we might matter more to more people, whether that's about mattering to audiences and visitors, or mattering to funders or donors or members or businesses. This is at the heart of business model development. It's not just about how we generate income, although of course that's important. It's how we generate value, how we deliver our vision and our purpose, and how we matter to the people that we want to reach and to engage.
So why are we talking about business models? Why is it so relevant nowadays? It's because of several reasons, but one of them is the internet, a new technology, new organizations and people trying to develop new ideas and how to monetize them in a new environment, which is the internet. So a startup basically it's an organization or it's a group of people trying to validate a business model or to look for a new business model.
Maybe you've seen a whole new audience group that you want to reach out to and engage and look at how your business model might adapt for that group, or perhaps you're seeing audiences decline and you want to reverse that. Maybe there's a new technology that is influencing how you might create value and how you might deliver work to people.
We are not talking about money, or not only. We talk about value. The value that we create for others and for our own organization. So the financial model or revenue model within a business model is just a small part. It's what you have seen in the bottom part of the business model canvas. But there are many other ways, apart from the financial, that you can create value for your staff, for your community, etc.
I want to introduce our first tool, which you have a copy of on your chairs. This is called the Business Model Canvas. It works for tiny startup organizations up to multinational corporations, charities, corporate businesses, etc. One of the things I love about it is how visual it is. I want you to think of it as a canvas, as a painter's canvas, and you're going to paint on it the story of your organisation and how your organisation works and how it delivers on its vision.
So based on the canvas that you have already seen, I just adapted to the cultural sector because there were things that were not fitting when we were working with the cultural organization. So for example, something that Julie added to the canvas is the vision, and that's maybe one of the most important things. So we added here the purpose and impact and how we are measuring the impact, because not all the cultural organizations are measuring their success in financial terms. There are many that don't care about the finances at all, and they are volunteers and they are very happy and delivering value for their communities and for themselves.
I tend to start over here by looking at the customer segments first. So this is, who are you targeting? So obviously your audiences and your visitors will be in amongst this, but it's anyone that you're delivering value to. So that might be audiences. It will probably be a funder. It will probably be donors, sponsors, anyone that you deliver a service for or deliver some value to. Then we look at what value you are delivering for each of those groups. What do they gain from their interaction with you? What is it that they're looking to get out of it? What's the big benefit for that group? And thirdly, what income do you get from them? So you should start to see that as you fill in your canvas and paint the picture of your business model, these things start to link together. And while I love the canvas, the thing that I dislike about it is how rigid these lines are, because actually the beauty of it is how it all works together. We need all of it to work, kind of synergy for it to be effective.
I changed a bit some things here and also added these components for this triangular or two-sided business model, which is so common in the cultural sector, where we, in many occasions, we don't sell directly to the beneficiaries, to the users, but we have this triangle in which we have the public administration, funding, and having beneficiaries on the other side which are not paying or not paying the full price.
So these two boxes are the things that you need to have and the things that you need to be. So firstly, your key activities. What are the things you need to really excel at in order to deliver that value to those people? And then what are the resources, the assets, the buildings, perhaps it's brand, perhaps it's database. What do you need to have to deliver that value? Now the thing I would warn against here is that what tends to happen is organisations write a great big long list in each of these boxes about all the things they have and all the things that they do, all the skills they have, all the different activities, exhibitions, workshops, performances, etc. That's not what we're looking for. What we want is what are the essential things that you need to have in place in order to make this value happen for these people. So then it may be that some of those things you don't have yourselves. You work with a partner or partners or suppliers to make those activities happen. And everything on this side of the canvas will create a cost. And that goes into the box at the bottom. So all your core costs, all the activities, everything up here has a cost related to it, which goes into the box down here. The final two boxes are the channels. How are you delivering that value to people? So that might be in the venue, it might be on tour, it might be online, for example. It's also how you're telling people about the things that are on offer. So your marketing activities, your website, your core communication channels. Final box is what type of relationship do you have with them? So is it something that is a passive relationship, you don't know them personally, they're coming in and experiencing your art and then disappearing? Is it something that you have an ongoing relationship with them? Do you know them personally? Is it something where you're creating the work with them? Is it a participatory thing? Is it educational? How would you describe the relationship you have with each of those customer groups? And is that the right one?
Then another clarification is the model. Normally, we tend to think when we speak about business models in this definition of model. It's a thing used as an example to follow or imitate. As Julie said, there are no model, no magic recipes in a way. So there is nothing to really imitate. When we talk about business models, it's rather this definition, a description or analogy used to help visualize something that cannot be directly observed. This is what we refer normally when we talk about business models.
So this starts to give you a kind of common language to discuss your organization and how it works and how the different building blocks of your company kind of hold up together. And you can sketch out from this new directions, new opportunities, new possibilities really quickly and start to share them with colleagues, with board members and other stakeholders to discuss what different options might look like in the future and where the strengths and weaknesses of that might be.
So we are talking about visualization. So there are many different approaches to business model innovation, different canvases, not only this one that we have seen before, but the important thing is the visualization, because it's all about starting to share the same words to understand within your team what you want to deliver, who you are, etc. So the visualization is helping something deeper, which is the conversation. It's starting a conversation, it's the starting point. And the business model innovation is a process, it's not a canvas. A business model is constantly evolving and transforming.
Yeah, let's start to have a think about how do we explore what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses, where are the opportunities in our current business model. So I want you to have a think about 3 different areas of your canvas. So the first is, come on, there we go, is this section of the model here. So have a look at that when you sketch it out and have a think about how desirable is your business model at the moment to each of those customer groups that you're working with, to your funders, to members, donors, different types of audiences and potential audiences, the people you want to attract into your organization. Do they really love that value proposition that you're offering? Can you define what it is that they value about what you do? So then have a look at this section. It's a bit faint, I don't know if you can see that. That says feasible. So how feasible is it for you to deliver your business model right now? Do you have the skills, the team, the venue, the partners, all the assets you might need to really deliver that value brilliantly for those people? What might be missing and how might we start to fill that gap? And the final section is this bit down the bottom. How viable is your business model at the moment financially? And then look at those 3 areas and think, okay, well, maybe it stacks up right now, but how adaptable is it to external change? You know, the world is moving at quite a pace, and that's not about to slow down anytime soon. So what if a new technology comes in which changes the channel that people want to experience your work through? What if a new partner came on board? Could that open up new opportunities for you? What if a new group of people moved into the local area? What might that do for what people are looking for from your organization, etc.?
So, a bit about Trans-Europal, what we do. Trans-Europal is about this in a way. It's about falling in love with the space, normally an industrial space or a not common space, and turning it into a cultural center. And our member centers are cultural centers initiated by civil society, so it's a grassroots initiatives, which are based in industrial buildings. Those are the main characteristics, and they are normally multidisciplinary. We started to think, what's the business model behind all these centers that we have in our network? Is there something, is there any pattern that we can recognize? So we started a project called Creative Business Models to try to find out what was behind all that. And what I will present now are some of the findings. So our member centers are, as you can see here, 33% of them are in the center of the city, while 38% are in the outskirts of the city. If you think that these are industrial buildings, it makes sense that normally they are outside of the center. And only 9% of them are in rural areas. Who is owning the building? That's also a critical factor. Here, 53% is owned by the city or the municipality. So they normally pay a rent. In some cases, they don't pay a rent. 42% they are privately owned, and only in 5% of the cases it's owned by the organization running the center. What type of activities do they organize? All kinds. Since they are multidisciplinary, they do all kind of things. But as you can see here, the most common are visual arts, music, theater, and film and video.
How might we change your business model? Where might you make a small tweak or a massive tweak in order to deliver better for your different customer segments or for your vision, which bit might be right for you. So most people at this point start to tweak their model. They start to add in things or maybe take something away. Often when people are looking at business models, they start by, there's often a funding crisis that starts it, so they start by looking at what can we cut. And if you're cutting things here, have a think about what does that mean for this bit of the model? Is it still feasible to deliver that value if you've made a cut here? Maybe it is, maybe there are some necessary cuts to make. I'm not saying don't do it, but have a look at does it still make it feasible? So then they move over here and think, well, what income streams can we add? How do we generate more revenue? And then this starts to get more complex as we add in more customer groups, more funders, more donors, whoever it may be. So then we need to think, does this still hang true? Are our value propositions for all of those different groups to create that new income stream still delivering in line with our vision? Does our canvas as a whole still paint the picture we want to tell about this organisation and the way in which we want to go? So you can start anywhere in the canvas thinking about how might we or what if we changed this?
So this is the key of the sustainability of many of these centers, which are the catering and retail facilities. So, yeah, as you can see here, only 16% of them don't have any of those, because that's a cash cow in a way. So bars, cafes, restaurants, art galleries, commercial art galleries, and shops are very common as income generation streams. And finally, this is how they make the money. So basically, rental and hires 26%, tickets, sales of tickets and participation projects 24%, public funding 20%, and catering and bars, etc. 19%. Our first hypothesis was more or less confirmed in a way. So what we found, if we just simplify a lot, we find that the beer or catering responds to 25% of the income generated by the centers, the ticket sales more or less 25%, the rental of the spaces the same thing, and the public funding, because there is a big community around the center, is also 1/4.
So, business model innovation, I've got a beautiful diagram which describes exactly how it looks and feels, and it looks just like this. Hopefully that should make sense to you all. So this is a squiggle from Damien Newman. Thanks, Damien, for letting me use this. But it really is how business model innovation looks like and feels like. So at this early stage, the research stage, it feels messy, and that's good. Let's just embrace the uncertainty and not worry about the fact we don't have the answers at this stage. This is a good thing. We're in the research stage, we're exploring options, we're looking at ideas. We're going to be asking a lot of questions of people to find out what's relevant to them. We'll explore that this afternoon.
So we define 4 different types or business models in these non-governmental cultural centers. The first one is the department store. So it's a cultural center which normally is programming at least 50% of their program. They decide, they have an artistic director who decides what to program. They are also multidisciplinary. Those are like the basic, they are very professionalized also. We have the second model, it's the shopping model. This is a model in which the center or the organization is running just the facilities, the building, and is renting out all the space. It can be rented out in different ways and different prices depending on the type of organizations. Third model is La Boutique. It's a specialized cultural center with a very strong focus and high quality program. For example, this is A38 in Budapest. It's not a factory, it's actually an Ukrainian ship in the middle of the city, in the river. And they are specialized in music, and they have an amazing program. And then we have the charity shop. and these are the hippie ones. So here, most of these centers are run by volunteers. They don't get paid, but they pay the artists normally, and they are very strongly connected to their communities.
So I've got 3 golden rules for you. The first one is don't fall in love with your first idea. So do not start with your first idea because it's probably not going to be your best one. So at this early research stage, you're probably going to be sketching out tens, hundreds even, of different canvases. The more you do it, the quicker it gets. I can sketch one out really, really quickly now, but it does take a bit of time to get to use it. So start by sketching out lots of different options, lots of different how might we's. Then as you start to look at, this one feels right, this one feels like it's exciting, it's going to deliver something new for our vision, it feels like it's going to be desirable to people, and yeah, we could do this if we made a couple of tweaks. Then we start to test all the way through this process. Don't wait until we get to finally designing the model that we're actually going to implement before you start talking to other people about it. We need to start doing that right here and exploring what might be relevant to people, what is desirable to those audiences and to those funders and to those members. Why are they engaging with you? Let's be curious about their lives, as Nina was, and look outside what you're doing at the moment. Get to know them, get to find out a bit more about them.
I will just go to the recipe for business model innovation. So this is, as I said before, it's one of the questions. What's the recipe? How can I transform my business model? There is no recipe, there is no model. You have to discover it yourself within your organization, as we said before. It's a living entity, so you just need to listen to it and what it wants and needs. But there is a methodology called the risk-driven business model innovation, which says that everything or all innovations can be reduced to this keyword, decisions. So it's all about who is making the decisions, when the decisions are made, what type of decisions are made. How can you transform your business model? Just change. Who is taking the decisions, when the decisions are taken, and what type of decisions are taken. And that will bring it to a transformation, that's for sure.
So that leads me to my second golden rule, which is don't start with a business plan. So, traditionally, one person, often the CEO, would write a business plan. And perhaps it would have input from your senior management team or maybe even from across your whole organization and your board. And you'd spend ages doing that, right? And they'd have this weighty document. And then, of course, something changes externally, and it doesn't quite feel relevant anymore, but we've spent months on this thing, and it's a book now. So we're just going to plow on regardless of whether this is still the right way or not. Third rule is don't wait for the crisis. It's no good if we get to, let's go back one. If we wait until the crisis happens, and now we need to start exploring business model innovation. But at that point, all you can do is just to design a new one and hope it's going to work. You haven't got any time to do any of this play or any of the research or any of the testing new ideas at that stage. So start now, start in a small way, start exploring your current model and start exploring what you might do so that if a crisis does hit, you've started to try out and test and perhaps do initial kind of prototypes or small versions of things. So you're starting to build up those new income streams or those new relationships or new partnerships, and they're ready to scale up. If and when a crisis or a major opportunity, let's be positive, happens later in the future, you're ready for it and you're able to respond. So it feels like evolution rather than revolution. It's not a sudden, we've got to suddenly look at everything. So this is the guide that was mentioned at the start of the talk. If you want to download a copy to look at how you might test your ideas and explore them in more detail, the link is here. So it's culturehive.co.uk/future-proof guide. And it's a guide that I wrote with funding from Arts Council England for an organisation called the Arts Marketing Association. And it follows a programme of support working with hundreds of museums actually across the UK. So the content is kind of focused on museums, but it's relevant to all arts organisations and all arts types.